Welcome on into BKL Nightly. This is the Let's Talk Ball edition. This is going to be an abridged show. This is a short version. It's a Christmas week. There's a lot of weird stuff going on schedule-wise. Plus, it was Bills and Browns. Wasn't that great a game? So we won't dive too deep into it. But as always, I'm Thad Brown, along with Carl Jones. We break down the X's and the O's, the All-22 every single week. And this week is no different, even with a holiday in the way. Carl, let's start on offense. And I think the easy number one takeaway from the way the Bills addressed this game offensively is they said, look, we're going to have to play with one hand tied behind our back, and that one hand tied behind our back is named Myles Garrett.
Earlier this year when they played the Cincinnati Bengals, I came on here and said they threw the kitchen sink and trying to slow down Jamar Chase. They're going to high-low him, cloud coverage, do everything to roll his way. Joe Brady said, Sean McDermott, I got something even more extreme in terms of trying to slow down a generational talent. I mean, they ran the ball. When they ran the ball, they ran it away from Myles Garrett. Play action, quick game, rolled away from him. I believe there were 7 play action rollouts. All 7 were away from Myles Garrett. When they did drop back to pass, that wasn't a screen or anything immediate. They chipped him with a running back, chipped him with a tight end. And if Deion Dawkins for a second was one-on-one, David Edwards says, buddy, I am right around the corner. Don't worry, you will not be alone. So they made sure it was plan A, B, C, D, and F. We're slowing down 95. We will not let him ruin the game.
I actually counted, so 29 running plays. Josh Allen turned to his left to hand the ball off 7 times out of 29. And left was Myles Garrett's side, of course. And then even of those 7, the majority of those were the inside zone runs where, yes, the handoff is to the left, but the run is immediately going to go back to the right. And the result of this big picture was this was not a great Joe Brady game. I didn't think he had a whole lot of good stuff. There were things that I could quibble with in terms of even how he executed within that game plan. But when you tell your offensive coordinator, okay, pretty much everything we do left, we ain't going to do this week, there's only so much he's going to be able to do in this, and it's not really a fair assessment of what the game plan should be.
I thought they played a low variance game on purpose. And this isn't to excuse the Bills and say like, oh, they wanted to, escape with a win. No, this game was still very much in doubt up until I believe like the last 90 seconds of the game. But I thought that they came in and said, listen, the only way that we can lose this game in terms of offensively is if 95 gets a strip sack, or if he gets us in the 3rd and 18, or if he turns something into a tip ball or things of that nature. If that doesn't happen, we believe without Denzel Ward and some of the other pieces in the back end that we can make stuff shake. And that's what's transpired. The Browns play a ton of man coverage. That's what Jim Schwartz does, and they cranked it up to like an extreme amount Sunday afternoon. So one way to combat that is a lot of rollouts. We're going to test your eye discipline. We're going to test your gaps in your technique. So we're going to use a lot of motion. We're going to do some switch releases. And at times, they were able to get some stuff on the perimeter. I think of Jackson Hall's on the perimeter a few times. Josh Palmer got loose, but it only went for 2 yards. So I think that they tried their best to say, listen, 95 won't beat us, and they play a lot of man coverage. Just find some plays here and there to stay ahead of the chains and get to 20 points or so, and we will hopefully leave with a win.
I thought it was the right plan, too. As much as we're kind of criticizing it a little bit, I get it. He's that kind of guy. The thing was, even within this game where the Bills did nothing his way, there were a couple moments where you saw what Myles Garrett can be. The one that kind of stood out to me has nothing to do with really making a play. There was a situation where Reggie Gilliam was actually trying to pull into Myles Garrett, and his shoulder hit Myles Garrett like he had run into a brick building and just fell down. And Reggie Gilliam's one of the good fullbacks in the NFL. So you saw why that guy is so dangerous. I didn't have any problem with the Bills going about it this way. I think maybe even within that plan, they didn't do as well as you would have thought. But if Dawson Knox makes a catch on a ball that's going to hit him between the eyes, they score 30 points in this game, everybody feels good about it. So overall, even if you're like, wow, they really dialed down what they could do in this game, I thought it was the right call. In terms of individual guys that stuck out, the one I want to highlight is Spencer Brown, and we talk about him a lot, but he was a wrecking ball in this game. Multiple opportunities where he just dominated guys down the field at the line of scrimmage. I thought he was really, really good. At some point, Carl, we're going to have to get to James Cook here, but is there anybody else before we talk about number 4 that really stood out to you, or any other part of this game offensively you liked?
I really like the guy to the right of Spencer Brown on a lot of plays. Jackson Halls. There was a play on the goal line. I don't know if it was Ty Johnson or James Cooks, where he also scored a touchdown on the play. That's how much that's how far he pushed his guy into the end zone. So once again, I know we talk about Jackson Halls weekly about what he does as a blocker, as a tight end, but it should never, ever go unnoticed because it is that darn impressive.
Yeah, I remember that play now. It was the short James Cook touchdown where he reached across the goal line, I think. I'm going to look at my list here again. Yeah, it was that touchdown.
It was
Yeah,
James
and
Cook.
he
Yeah.
just, yeah, my note says Hawes buries safety, and that's exactly what happened. He scored a touchdown too. You're right. Speaking of Cook, we've talked about him a lot, and it is all deserved. This to me, I think, was the best game for James Cook. When you go down the list of things a running back can do, he checks all the boxes, and he checked all the boxes in the first half of this game. He's so good this year.
You're going to talk about the crazy run play. How about the pass block situation on the perimeter? Josh Allen's rolling out, and
He had one good one and one bad one, but I will give you he had the good one. Yes.
listen, baby steps now. We ain't
Yes,
gonna be
yes.
Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott overnight. Can we get to passable? And I thought a rep, I believe it was on a defensive end or a big linebacker, where he was blocked the guy twice and held and gave Josh Allen time. I'm like, wait a second here. When did we have that in the tool belt? You've been watching Ty Johnson's film, so you're right. It is not like superb, and you don't want him out there every single third down. But it was enough to make it be like, oh, four is not a complete liability in pass pro.
100%. I thought the same thing watching that rep, because it wasn't just like a running back flying in and cutting knees. He actually had to sit there and pass block the guy, mirror the guy, stay with him, stay on his feet, and did a really good job. Now, again, he missed one later, so like you said, baby steps, but it was an improvement. And the initial reaction I had watching that was, maybe Four needs to get more third down reps, because there is some ability there. So for sure, we talk about all the different things he does running the ball, and the long touchdown run was almost all him. It really wasn't. It's funny when I see big long run plays, most of the time you're like, wow, the tackle hammered the DN, and then the guard got down on the linebacker, and then the receiver went out and got and everybody's just like block, 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 block. The Bills blocked almost no one. That play wasn't supposed to work. Dawson Knox is pulling, and a guy penetrates the block, the pull. Now, part of it is the one other thing I want to get to about this Browns team, in that, yeah, they're bad. And you saw it over and over in this game. On that particular play, the backside linebacker is so hell-bent on getting to the hole, he not only overran James Cook, but he blew out his own man on the play. So there was a healthy dose of that in this game as well.
Yeah, the Browns, and listen, I never want to speak about the complete psyche of another man and putting on that helmet, but there was some like, hey, end of the season, we're going to be Cancun, Mykonos, whatever you want to call it. But I'll say this though, that play in particular, when people talk about, oh man, how much value does a running back really add? Like, oh, you take off a James Cook and you put on, like, no disrespect to a Kyron Williams or maybe a player of that ilk, who you would say is between like the 10 and 12 range or whatever. How bad, how big of a drop would it be? And then you see plays like that and you're like, yeah, don't disrespect Four like that. Four is one of those players who can lift a running game, even with a great supporting cast in terms of offensive line, and Josh Allen having his own gravity back there at quarterback. Just a phenomenal player. Past couple years, we've been talking about Pro Bowlers. Oh, is he top 10? Now, if someone were to hit me up and say, is he the best running back in football, I wouldn't call you crazy and slap you upside the head. That's how impressive he's been, especially over like the last 6 weeks or so.
Okay, Carl, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. The place I wanted to start is something Bobby Babbitt said in his press conference on Monday, because the Bills, again, at least by the stat sheet, were really bad against the run. Browns had a season high, 160 yards rushing, multiple guys doing lots of things. But Babbitt was like, hey, look, the running back stuff we did good. The problem was scrambling and ends arounds and things that you might look at as junk rushing yards. And I said, all right, well, let me go back and look. And yeah, they were not terrible against the running backs, but the more I watched, the more kind of animatedly and disgusted I got with that comment, because this run D wasn't good at all. And even the reverse in the first quarter, the first drive of the game, yes, it's a reverse, and yes, it's not a straight run play, but the way that was set up, to me, it was Kevin Stefanski looking at the Patriots film and saying, Travion Henderson was stopped and cut back and scored a touchdown. I wonder if we could do that on purpose. And that's what that reverse was, using what the Bills did bad in that Patriots game and then beating them with it again in this game against the Browns.
You know me, and I'm big on process in terms of just like pure result, because I think the process is more indicative of the future. And when you watch the Bills, quite frankly, even dating back to last year, their big weakness in the run game is horizontal. So like you're talking about, we're like reversing fields and off tackle and things of that nature. If we get motion going one way and we run the other, the guys get lost in the sauce and eyes are in the wrong spot. And when I think about, like, sure, you take away Shadur Sanders' scrambles and the number is probably much closer to like 110, 120. But when I think about how they got to that 110, 120, it was things of that nature. The stuff that we've been talking about all year. It's when Taron Johnson cuts off a Terrell Bernard and they're able to get to the perimeter. That's when Bijan Robinson is able to go off tackle and go for 80 yards out to the house. It is when they get to the perimeter and they are able to do these reverse screens where it's like, sure, it wasn't all bad, but you best believe if you and I are talking about this, Greg Roman is going to talk about this in the postseason. So is Sean Payton, Josh McDaniels when they see him again, D'Amico Ryans, and whoever their offensive coordinator is, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I guess they found a new fountain of youth over the last few weeks. So I think that sure it wasn't the worst rushing defensive performance I've ever seen, but they're getting beat the same exact ways, and it's December 23rd now. This is who they are. Like this isn't like a fluke at this point. If you want to run the ball on the Bills, you can do it up the middle, but most efficiently run a motion one way, do a little misdirection the other, and you'd probably be getting 7 yards a pop.
To me, it wasn't even just the same ways. And look, the defensive tackles in this game, Fedarian Mathis and TJ Sanders in particular. For TJ Sanders, this rookie year to me is a wash. It's just not happening. Injuries have been a part of it. I want to give him a fresh start next year, and we'll see. Mathis is a practice squad guy. You can see why. Deion Walker had moments in this game where he won and then couldn't make the play, like he'd defeat the block but couldn't make a tackle, which was a concern I had of his coming out of college. But regardless, it's still progress. The thing that I want to go to, though, is you said they're losing the same ways. In this game, I saw them losing new ways. You know why the jet sweeps work? Because they can get out in the perimeter, and if it's a corner, especially if it's Harrison or Trey White, but even Christian Benford in this game, Matt Milano, weak side linebacker, those guys get blocked way too easily and way too often.
Yeah, and I think that's the disconcerting part when you talk about, in particular, the linebackers. I just don't think they do a good job of sideline to sideline physicality. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Like, how can you be physical going sideways? Like, that makes no sense. When you watch these other teams, they're able to get to the point of attack, even if it is at a 90-degree angle, and set the edge. They're able to jump the gun. Like, all of Matt Milano's plays to me are unblocked. And that's no disrespect to him, but I just think that he played the best by far of any linebacker Sunday, but even when it comes to the run game, I still thought he had some limitations that the Browns were able to take advantage of. Terrell Bernard struggled early on. Dorian Williams got the red dot treatment at times. Shaq Thompson didn't look good in the 6 plays he was out there or whatever. So it's the same old with the Bills linebacker group and just how you can get at them on the perimeter. And you just got to pray to sweet baby Jesus that this isn't going to be a big issue for them in the postseason.
6-pound, 3-ounce baby Jesus. That's where we're at, getting the prayers for the run defense right now. I got a couple things. Number one, I want to translate for everybody out there who's never been in a football meeting room. I know I've never been either, but at least I know the answer to this. The red dot treatment means when the coach takes the laser pointer and puts something up there that says that's a problem, it's with a red dot. That's what red dot treatment means for everybody listening at home. Before I get to a couple other things that I got, what else stood out from you on the defensive side of the ball in this Bills game against the Browns?
I mean, we got to talk about Greg Rousseau, right? I mean, he's probably the most polarizing player probably outside of Keon Coleman. Outside of Keon, he's probably the most polarizing player on the roster. And for better or for worse, you either love him or hate him, excuse me. And I thought that we've talked about on this platform before when he's not the greatest one-on-one pass rusher, but when he is up against backup tackles, you need to see him take advantage of it. And I think last season, that Chiefs playoff game was very disappointing because I know Joe Tooney's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Fame guard. And I would love to see a guy I pay $80 million to take advantage of moments like that. And this season, I haven't felt as if that he's made inferior competition look like it. But in that fourth quarter, maybe even the entire second half, he let Cam Robinson know, I got paid 80 M's this offseason, and you got traded for a 7th-round pick a few months ago. We are not the same. We can talk about projecting that forward if we want, but in terms of Sunday afternoon, when the Bills needed him, he stepped up and met the occasion.
Totally agree. And he was doing that right from the start. One of the moves that worked for him real well at the end of the game, and you heard J.J. Watt talk about it, was getting underneath the outside arm and lifting Cam Robinson. Well, you know what happened on the very first pass rush rep of the day? He got outside he got underneath the outside arm, lifted him, and had control. It wasn't a sack there, but you can almost see the seeds being planted of, I know I can win this way, and when I have to, I'm going to later. And you're right. Cam Robinson is 57 out of 60 in terms of pass rush or pass protection by PFF. Say what you want about PFF. He ain't good, is what they're saying right there. Greg Rousseau looked like not an elite player, but certainly a way better player at a spot where the Bills needed him to. And the ability to do it. I don't care who it was against, what team it was, what tackle it was. The fact that you put it out there on film, that at the end of a game, when it was close and they needed you to make a play, you acted like the guy who just got paid, like you said, and defeated over and over someone that you should be beating. I think that is very much a confidence boost for not only the Rousseau, but this team in general.
Yeah, you just now the question is how does it scale up against better competition? I mean, he's going to get we're going to get an answer this Sunday. Jordan Mailata, who may not be playing at his all pro level this season, but he's still much better than Cam Robinson. And then in the postseason, barring Will Campbell staying, well, the Chargers left tackle situation is its own story, but you will see much better tackles than Cam Robinson in the postseason. So we're going to learn real quick. Was that a one-off or is that something that he's going to build upon for the rest of the season?
A couple other notes. One other thing I want to say about the way this game was operated. The Browns on the opening drive went right down the field and scored a touchdown. To me, I thought that Stefanski, who's still a really good coach, did a nice job of seeing what the Bills were succeeding with in the run game, which was attacking, blitzing, bringing creeping linebackers and safeties up to the line of scrimmage. So what does he do? He rolls out. He play actions. He hits screens over the top of blitzes. They may have gotten lucky on the timing, a couple of those, but the game plan was really, really smart. Here's what they're going to do. Here's how we can beat it. And they went to that over and over, and I wanted to get Stefanski credit for that. Another thing that I want to credit, and I want you to kind of lay out exactly how hard this is, the Cole Bishop tackle on the screen that got loose when it was an offensive lineman and a running back behind him, 2-on-1 against Cole, basically an open field. That play has not gotten discussed anywhere near enough on Bill's social media. I talked to Jordan Poyer a little bit about it today, and I'll go into what he said in a minute. But give me your breakdown as someone who's been a defensive back, who probably has lived that scene, maybe not in person, but certainly in your nightmares at some point in your life.
Oh, boy, I still got a couple of them. Boston College come to mind. South Florida come to mind when I was a puppy, 18 years old, a couple games into my college career. We've talked about it. In my opinion, the hardest skill to master as a football player is tackling an open field. So how about we take that to the next level, tackle in the open field, but then put a 300-pound man running at you. Think about that for a second here. And the fact that he was able 15, 20 yards down the field with an angry man who weighs a lot more than him running at him, we got to avoid him and get the running back or receiver down. Yeah, good luck with that. That's super duper impressive. Him and Jordan Poyer actually over the last month have done a good job of tackling in space. Jordan Poyer in particular, that game, there were a couple plays that should have gotten out the gate, and he did a good job of keeping them at 8, 9 yards. So I thought that the Bills' safeties, we've critiqued in the past, I know I have, about their inability to get guys down to the ground. They don't got to be pretty. Cole Bishop, in particular on that play, is a phenomenal job of doing that.
So the conversation with Poyer today, I said to him, look, is there a technique that you teach for that? And he says, you have to make a decision and go, and then it has to be right. Not that it's a guess, but when you have a angle or what you're trying to do to get around that lineman to the running back, it has to be thought and go. And the fact that Cole Bishop has gone from getting spiked by Derrick Henry to doing this in the open field in the same season, I think is an incredible piece of growth. Real quick on Poyer, I'm with you that there were a number of good tackles. He also missed a few in this game too, and that was a problem for a lot of different guys. Matt Milano missed some tackles. The tackling remains an issue. But with Jordan Poyer, for where he's at in his career age-wise and what was expected out of him, this was still absolutely a plus performance by him.
No, I don't think it was peak Poyer in terms of his ability to get guys down to the ground. I mean, 2019, 2020 Poe, I mean, he ain't missing no tackles. And you can tell that his athletic limitations are there. Like, he's not able to, quite frankly, if he's at 12 yards of depth, he used to be able to meet guys 2, 3 yards down the field. Now, it's more like 6, 7 yards down the field, and just is in a springy to get to the spot. But I remember and this is no disrespect to Taylor Rapp, he was battling through some injuries and has made him to miss the rest of the season. But I remember that first month of the year where Taylor Rapp wasn't able to bring guys down to the ground in open space, even Cole Bishop, quite frankly, for that matter. And Poyer has done a better job more often than not of getting those guys down. And I can't reiterate this enough. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. And for those at home, you're going to hear this in your nightmares. Tackling in space is the hardest thing to do in football. And when a guy is able to do it, you pat them on the back and you give them a big old hug because it is super duper hard.
I was going to actually ask you that question, if what Cole Bishop did is what you think is the hardest thing in football, and you've answered it very nicely. Anything else on the defensive side of the ball from you from this game?
No, not really. I mean, there was no drop back passing game, so I can't really speak of much when it comes. I mean, they rolled out screens, quick little dump offs. It was a very boring game. It was the exact opposite of 7-on-7 for the Bills DBs.
And really went both ways, too, because what
Yeah.
we talked about with how the Bills had to attack Myles Garrett. The drop-back pass was almost a trick play in this game as much as anything else was. All right, cool. That's going to do it for this edition of Let's Talk Ball. Thanks very much for checking in. As always, remember, you can always see this show on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on Rochester First and on WIVB+. We'll be back again next week with probably a more full and enhanced episode of Let's Talk Ball when we talk about Bills and Eagles. Until then, for Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for checking us out this week. Have a great holiday. Enjoy your Christmas, and we'll see you in 7 days.